In 174 different countries, has been translated in 7 different languages, and we are nationally certified.
Excellent. So if you're interested in open source and the health IT healthcare space, this gentleman is also hiring interns. Hopefully this has proven the point that there are jobs in open source and they are wonderful and happy because, again, getting paid is nice. How many of you folks have student internships or student experience jobs available on your campus? Wow, a sea again of no hands. All right. So this is one of those times when I feel particularly fortunate to be at Oregon State University and working at the open source lab. One of the great things that we're able to do at the OSL is to employ several students to work on various projects, from systems administration and infrastructure for the various open source projects we host, to doing actual software development on some of our internal homegrown software, or to help out other open source projects whose software we use. And hey, they get paid, and you know, they get to hang out with us and work in our data center, and it's a lot of fun. All right, other ways to get involved in open source: conferences and unconferences. Hey, you're at a conference right now. Do you feel involved?
Yes.
Hooray, thank you. Somebody has had their coffee today, and that's fabulous. One of the reasons that I encourage folks to go to conferences or to unconferences when they're kind of getting started in open source software is in-person interactions are actually really important. We have this sense that open source software development all takes place online. Nobody is in the same room together when they're doing their coding work. Everyone's talking to each other using real-time chat. Everyone's checking code into version control systems, and someone's reviewing it because they get an email to do so. And there isn't this sense that in-person interaction, when you hear that story, is really important, but it absolutely is. Go to any developer-based conference and you'll see the energy, the excitement, and the great motivation that folks have to get their work done when they come together in person. So conferences are a great place to find a potential mentor if that's the route you want to go. You could find a potential mentor here, for example. And lots of folks here from the open source community are pretty well connected. We'd be happy to sort of point you in the right direction if that's what you'd like. How many of you have ever been to an unconference? See a couple hands. Would someone like to define unconference for me very quickly? I'm going to pick on David because I like picking on David.
Unconference is chaos organized around learning.
An unconference is chaos organized around learning. I love that. Unconferences, just to give you an idea more of the structure rather than the theme, are conferences where you show up, appointed date and time, start time, end time, and the actual schedule is set by the attendees. So if you want to talk about how to hack your Wii, you go ahead and suggest that you'd like to give that session and pick out a room for it. Or if you decide that you're more interested in talking about how to theme your WordPress site, you can do that. We've had sessions at Beaver Bar Camp, which is the bar camp that we host at OSU in Corvallis, Oregon, on everything from the topics I just mentioned to how to hotwire your car, to how to cook for your boyfriend or girlfriend, to let's all go do yoga out on the quad. So you can expect a little mix of everything. Typically bar camps are technically focused, but there's a little bit of something for everyone at them. Nice thing about unconferences, clearly, since the attendees drive the content, you don't have to worry about being some kind of super genius to show up at an unconference and learn something and have fun. Everyone's there to contribute, listen to one another, discuss topics. Much lower barrier to entry if you're feeling kind of intimidated because, wow, I'm at this conference where this really important person is standing up in the front of the room lecturing to me and I need to sit there and be really, really quiet and absorb all the wisdom they have to impart. Not quite that scene. All right, join your local user group. Anybody here involved in their Linux users group? See a couple of hands. Everyone know what a user group is? Sir, would you like to define user group for me really quickly since I didn't see that many hands? Yes, please.
That's interesting because I don't actually have a user group of my own. But basically they get together and talk about how to use open source software, specifically Linux and Linux running software. So if you need to learn more about Linux, you need to join the Linux users group. Show up at the meetings and you'll learn things.
Awesome. So just to summarize that, users groups are groups where folks get together to talk about, surprise, surprise, using software. More often than not, they're open source software users groups. And if you're like this gentleman who was kind enough to define user group for us, you don't have a users group in your hometown, and that is a huge bummer. If you come to Portland. We have users groups. If you're fortunate enough to live in Portland, Oregon, there are so many user groups meeting that you have to form your own open source project to calendar all of the meetings so that everyone knows what's going on. It's called Calligator. It's the software that runs it is entirely open source, so if you would like to fork that and set that up on your college campus so all of you can know when all the technical meetups are going on, highly encourage that, and patches are welcome to this project. The reason why joining a user group is awesome is, again, you have the opportunity to find a potential mentor, to learn more about the technology from your peers, and also, usually weekly, there are talks on a particular topic which you may know lots about or you may know nothing about. So user groups are a great way to get involved in open source when you're just starting out. So remember we talked a little bit at the beginning about trial by fire and how diving right in can be a little bit difficult. So let's simplify diving right in. Let's say none of the approaches that I've just suggested are really going to work for you. That's great. Here's how I would get started. If you're looking to join a project, I would start with organizations that have participated in Google Summer of Code in the past for one reason. Those are projects who have specifically publicly stated that they're looking for less experienced contributors and for new people to come and join their project. And again, this spans the gamut. Any technology that you're interested in, you'll find the right one among those organizations. And again, it's really important when you're shopping for a project to make sure that project is ready to take on new contributors. Anybody get the chance to go to SIGSI? Doubt it, okay. Heidi Ellis, my colleague on the Humanitarian FOSS project, who is also a professor of computer science at, I want to say, Western New England College, rolled out this list of how she helps her students figure out whether or not open source projects are open for business. Take a look at the website. Was it last updated in 2002? You probably don't want to work on that. Just a thought. Take a look at the issue queue. Have bugs been recently filed? Are there patches that are waiting to be reviewed? Are there bugs that have been sitting around since 2001 and a bug hasn't been submitted since 2003? Again, probably not under active development. Join the project mailing list, right? Just subscribe, see what's going on. If there's absolutely no traffic on it and you look at the mailing list archives and the last message that was sent was, 3 months ago and it was clearly from a spammer and nothing before that for like 2 years, maybe not so much. And the other thing that I would encourage you to do is, again, part of this sort of checklist, is look for projects that explicitly welcome new contributors. If you look at various open source projects, some of them will have a mission statement or a diversity statement, and they will actually specifically call out the fact that they want new contributors, people who are completely inexperienced with software development as a whole. That's a great place to get started if you're just finding your feet. Another great place to get started is the Open Hatch project. Anyone here heard of Open Hatch? See a couple of hands, that's great. The Open Hatch project is the brainchild of a gentleman by the name of Ashish Loria, who was at Creative Commons for a long time. And the idea was that he and a group of friends realized kind of the age-old problem that it's really, really hard to get started with an open source project. The barriers to entry can be high, and it can become really easily to just drop out and not contribute because you try to get started, you're not sure how you fit in, you're not sure what you should work on. Maybe the documentation's outdated, maybe everyone's busy because the latest release cycle is coming up. You're not really sure, you tried, you gave it the old college try, you give up. Open Hatch is meant to correct that problem. There's actually a button. This is the coolest thing ever. It's the I want to help button. So let's say you think that PHP-based content management systems are the bee's knees. So you go and you search for PHP content management system, and it pops up, 3 or 4, and you look around and you decide, hey, this is the one that's right for me. You click the I want to help button. That triggers an email to be sent off to your welcome wagon person. They contact you, find out more about what you're interested in, what your skills are, what you'd like to learn, and they set you up with the right folks in that open source community to get you started on a project. Very cool, easy as pie. Openhatch.org, cannot recommend it highly enough. This is part of your responsibility once you have found a project that you want to participate in to make sure that you look credible. As I'm sure most folks in this room know, an awful lot of open source development is done as volunteer work in folks' spare time. I know we talked a lot about employment, but even folks who are employed to work on open source frequently spend many more hours than they may wish to admit programming in their spare time because they're really passionate about what they do. So when you come in as a would-be new contributor, it's important to establish credibility quickly, otherwise folks are going to wonder why you are wasting their spare time without, why are you not respecting my time by doing things like reading the website and, looking for a document, for example, about your topic. Again, we've already talked about subscribing to the project mailing lists. That's a great source of information and a great way to get to know the community, the people who are talking, what their objectives are, what they think is important, and figuring out how you can fit in that way. How many folks here use IRC, Internet Relay Chat? Okay, we need to see more hands than that, my dear friends. Twitter has not completely replaced IRC, no matter what anyone will tell you. IRC is just a real-time chat room, and most open source projects live and die by their IRC channel. If anyone wants to know how to use IRC, if you search the web for IRC tutorial, there are numerous well-written documents about how to use Internet Relay Chat, how to connect to the right server, and how to get started talking to the open source projects you want to talk to. If you've ever used a chat client, you can use IRC. If I majored in medieval English literature and I can use IRC, you'll be fine. The idea is, once you, so you got an IRC, you're hanging out in this project's channel, you're figuring out what's going on. The correct term for this is lurking. Just sit and observe, see what goes by. Look to see what kind of conversations are going on. Again, this helps you to get a sense of the lay of the land, who the players are, who's talking, what's important to them. If you see things scroll by like, the build is broken, or, oh my God, what happened to our repository? There's nothing left in it. Or, did you just delete the website? That's probably not a good time to ask, hi, how can I help? Just a thought. Wait a little bit until all that blows over. Last but not least, asking questions the smart way. Has anybody ever heard of the document by Eric S. Raymond, How to Ask Questions the Smart Way? There's one person. Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. Two people. This document is unnecessarily harsh and was written a long time ago, back when the internet was new and people got away more with being cranky, I suppose. There's some useful stuff in it if you want to read it later on, but let me quickly summarize it. Asking questions the smart way means giving as much data as you possibly can to the person you're asking the question of. So, I am unable to build this software package. It's a problem. Here is the distribution of the operating system that I'm using. Here's what I was doing when I experienced the problem. I'm describing the problem in as much detail as possible. I have searched the web for my error message, and nothing I came up with was useful. And I have looked through the documentation for this problem, and I've found nothing. I would like some assistance. Again, this is about demonstrating to the volunteer community that you would like to join that you're respectful of their time. You've done your best to solve the problem on your own. You demonstrate to them that you've done that. And then people are much more happy and inclined to help you than if they get an email that says, it's broken, I don't like it. Like, that's not terribly helpful to them. So again, ask questions the smart way, ask questions the right way, help you with your credibility and help you get better integrated into the community.